Hey, animal allies. I was just waiting a minute as folks are joining us from all around. And how is everybody? What's happening in your part of the world? Got any good news in relation to animal activism? Any wins? Please share in the comment, say hello, or let us know where you are in the world. We'd love to know. So welcome to another AAC Activist Chat live stream. Today, I am joined by Paul Crompton, and we are going to talk about the newly released documentary film, Dogspiracy. So my name is Michelle Gramberg. I'm your host tonight. For those new to AAC, AAC was created to help activists become effective by equipping them with the tools, community, and resources they need to boldly participate in our global animal liberation movement. Founded in 2020, AAC offers a free 3-month mentorship program which pairs experienced activists with aspiring activists. You can apply today to become a mentor or mentee through our website. Plus, we're much more than a mentorship program. We offer free educational live streams and online trainings. We have a podcast called the Animal Liberation Hour, and we host large-scale in-person collaborative activism events around the country. AAC is a support system and resource designed to empower grassroots activism. And a reminder, it is time to register for our New York City Fur Free Weekend, November 27th through 30th, 2025, 4 days of back-to-back action for animals. And we'll put that link tree in the comments. So we want to show you the Dogspiracy trailer. So first, let me read the official description, and then we'll play the trailer, and then we're gonna bring Paul on. So across the globe, millions of puppy breeders and rescue shelters supply dogs responsibly, but there is also a sinister world of abuse and exploitation. Dogspiracy follows British vet, author, and animal welfare campaigner, Dr. Marc Abraham, OBE, also known as Marc the Vet, as he investigates puppy mills, canine fertility clinics, and puppy smuggling. In America and the UK, he meets decision makers who have the power to change the law, but he eventually uncovers a conspiracy that prevents bipartisan laws from being passed. Dogspiracy aims to empower the public into knowing how to do the right thing despite the disappointment of our politicians. His mission takes him to Wales, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and Westminster. Mixing with the political elite, Marc discovers conspiracies in both Britain and America. So let's go ahead and show the trailer.
I'm Dr. Marc Abraham, a practicing vet and animal welfare campaigner. We have an international problem with puppies being produced on an industrial scale. It's cruel, and yet it's totally legal. If you had zero knowledge of this multi-billion-pound industry, you could easily be fooled into thinking everything is okay.
They're everywhere.
This is big bucks, and money talks.
I'm going undercover to experience exactly what it's like to buy a pet store pup.
I've seen organs in the wrong place. I've seen organs outside of the body. This is nuts. It has to stop.
I'm doing all I can to help change the law in America. We've made change happen in the UK, though the work here is still far from done.
It was really disappointing to see the government drop this bill, and if I'm honest, I haven't really quite understood why.
Over 80% of support for all of these things from the UK public.
Yeah.
And they're ignoring it.
Makes you think, who is pulling the strings?
The easiest way to save millions of dogs' lives is to end cruel puppy mills and puppy smuggling forever. And you could be part of the solution.
We have to keep on fighting. You're in safe hands.
So AAC is really pleased to introduce Paul Crompton. Paul is an award-winning director and producer of documentaries. He works on both sides of the Atlantic, developing documentary ideas with new talent. He makes feature documentaries for film festivals and streamers, including series that are currently on TV in the UK. I'm already going to tell you to visit cromptontv.com. And we will take questions for Paul in a little while. I just ask you to stay on topic and, as always, be kind to one another in the comments, but please share with one another in the comments. So, hey, Paul, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me, Michelle. Really appreciate it.
It's really nice to have you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation and to seeing the documentary. Can you maybe start by giving us just your own sort of synopsis of Dogspiracy, and why is that title? Why is the title so fitting?
Oh, good question. We spent ages thinking about the title. Ages. I mean, this film started on paper as an idea at the beginning of lockdown in March 2020. And that's 5.5 years ago. And we spent 5 years of playing around with the title. And it was only towards the end of the film was meant to be Marc, who's an expert in campaigning for political change, and he's successfully made a law happen in the UK. When Marc revisits Pennsylvania to watch Victoria's law being put into law. And what happened was they kept kicking the can down the road, and all of a sudden it was removed from the actual voting system. So we struggled to find an end for the film. So what's really positive now is that Victoria's law has been relisted. But when it came to the title Dogspiracy, we found out that both in the UK and in America that laws were looking like they were going to be passed. Everything was happening in the right direction, and all of a sudden, at the last minute, they just vanished. So there was something else going on beyond setting the law up, going through all the paperwork, talking to a politician introducing it to Parliament or introducing it to the Harrisburg state government, and all of a sudden these laws were disappearing. So it felt like there was a conspiracy, and we tried to get to the bottom of it. But ever since the film was launched in London in July, there's now been a resurgence because we've had some very good reviews, thankfully, and we've had a lot of social media traffic. I think there's been a sort of concerted effort to relist Victoria's law in Pennsylvania, and that's what we found out about a few weeks back, and that's why we're putting the film on this weekend in Philadelphia, to sort of try and motivate and give that campaign to put Victoria's law into law an injection of energy, so it's sort of this viewing on Saturday and then the one in New York on Tuesday. They've really been rushed together just to support this new relisting of Victoria's law. But Dogspiracy came out of that thing that there must be something going on beyond just normal politics.
Yeah, there's a dog conspiracy going on. Yeah, and if folks who are with us are familiar with Victoria's law, go ahead and comment in the chat around that what you know. But before we go too much further, let's just give a good shout out to Marc Abraham, because his role in this. For those who don't know who he is, he's a well-known, mainly in the UK, but he's a veterinary surgeon, broadcaster, author, and animal welfare campaigner, regularly appearing on shows in the UK, as well as being a producer of a US movie documentary, Dog by Dog. And he has quite a range of experience within veterinary work, as well as his volunteering abroad. So, as you say, he is an expert and has a unique depth and breadth of knowledge. So I want folks to check him out as well at markthevet.net. But what do you want to say about Marc? What stands out about him?
When myself and a colleague as a producer started to just scratch the surface of what rescue centres and shelters and puppy mills are and what that sort of the relationship is, it was a new world to us, because when you're making documentaries, you go from one subject to another. You're not an expert in anything. You just know little bits about various different subjects. So it was a learning curve at the very beginning. And I would ring up, I would telephone a rescue centre, or a charity, or a politician, and no one would get back to me. And it was, okay, this is going to be tough. And I started to meet people, and eventually met Mark, and he said, well, that's a friend of mine. I know him. I can get that person. I can get this person. He was like the centre of that world. And at that moment on, he said it, and we thought it, actually, this Mark is the film. This sort of mission that he's on is the film. So it took for me, it took a much clearer, much stronger emphasis having Mark there at the set as a central character, just driving the story. So Mark's been fantastic, and he's doing it now. Every month in the UK Parliament, he runs an all-party parliamentary group for dog and animal welfare, and he's working on new laws all the time. He's relentless. It's very impressive. And he's a vet, and he's a working vet. He's not. That's not an occupation. That's something you do.
Right. Hands on, and that would be enough.
Yeah.
But he's doing so much more.
Yeah.
With his position and his network, and that's really amazing. So I know we'll talk, a little bit more about the movie is premiering here in the US in the next couple of days, but it's already premiered in the UK. Any idea what the response has been there, and what's the hope in terms of it being instrumental in making change?
Well, it had a world premiere. The first outing is called the world premiere, and then when you put it into another country for the first time, it's called the international premiere. So it's the international premiere on Saturday. The world premiere was last July, and I don't know if we hit a lucky spell in newspaper reviews, but everyone seemed to review it. The tabloids, the broadsheets, and I think the Guardian review seemed to sort of travel well across to the US. And also we had lots of online reviews, and people who were watching it would go on social media, and we encourage that at all times. And that comes from Mark's campaigning background. If you think it's just you on your Instagram page and it's not worth much, well, you're wrong. It's worth a lot, and we encourage everyone to get involved and to support the film, and that's what happened. So we were really overwhelmed with the response. And then about 2 weeks after the world premiere, there was this day called International Dog Day, and the Odeon Cinema in the UK put it on all over the country. So it was on in Wales, Scotland, all over the country for this one special day. So we got a lot of eyeballs on the film on that day as well, and that helped a lot as well. And I think also when the message was then filtering into especially Pennsylvania, the US, that's when we started to get messages, you've got to show it over here, and we've got a lot of people making contact ever since. So we're building up a list of dates, a list of locations to take it to, and hopefully we'll be doing that in January onwards.
Nice. Yeah, that's the fun part of it, right? Getting it out there in that way. So let's dive a little bit into the documentary, the content in the documentary, and that we understand you may not have all the answers, and that is absolutely okay. But I guess in your own words, from your experience, what is a puppy mill? I mean, we know it's a farm and a large-scale breeder, but and how profuse or widespread, how many, if you know, do you estimate there are, and where are the majority of them?
Well, in the UK, like they are in the US, they are mostly in agricultural places, on large farms, and one of the two places in the UK are Wales, and obviously not. I'm going to say Ireland. Ireland's not the UK, but Wales and Ireland have a lot of puppy mills. We call them puppy farms. It's the same thing. But in the US, there are about 6 or 7 states which are the majority puppy farm producers, puppy producers. And Pennsylvania happens to be one of them. There's Ohio, Missouri, the agricultural, mostly sort of farmland places. And from working with the Humane, I want to say the Humane Society, but Humane World for Animals, working with them in this film, they gave us some good statistics, and there's an estimation that there are around 10,000 puppy mills in the US. And what's in good news is what's slowly happening is some states are now banning pet stores from selling puppies, because those puppies in pet stores come from puppy mills, and it's about doing as much as possible to disrupt that supply chain. Now, the states that have banned puppies being sold in pet stores, they're mostly on the east and west coast, and mostly not really big producers of, not big puppy mill places. So we think if we can help the Pennsylvanian campaigners who've been working on Victoria's law for the last 9 or 10 years, if we can help them to get it across the line here, that will be a big thing. Having Pennsylvania ban pet stores from selling its dogs, cats, and rabbits, is what's in Victoria's law, will be a massive. It'd be a massive wave in the country, and hopefully then that will be the beginning of lots of other states doing the same.
So you chose Pennsylvania as one of the cities you go to in the documentary because of it being, because of the majority, so many of the puppy farms, puppy mills are there, plus because there is a push for Victoria's law.
Yeah, but it's the other way around though. We met a woman called Grace who told us about Pennsylvania. So Grace said, if you're going to do a film on dog welfare, you've got to come to Pennsylvania. So then Mark gets on the airplane, flies across to the pond and meets Grace. And then she takes us out into the puppy mills. And one of the most powerful pieces in the film is Grace, Mark, and a Republican senator from Pennsylvania going out into the puppy mills in Lancaster County and rescuing dogs that can no longer breed. They've come to this part of their life where there's nothing left in them. It's really awful. And Grace picks them up and gives them some nice end-of-life care and some other, more extended bit of positivity in their life. But they are dogs that have been bred over and over again and until there's nothing left in them, And Grace does that every week. She goes into this puppy farms every week and then picks up these dogs. So Grace took us on this covert filming operation as we picked up all these dogs from the puppy farms, and they're beautiful places. They're gorgeous scenery, really well-maintained buildings, which are largely for classic agricultural farming. They're producing dairy, they're producing grains. There's really no need for them to produce puppies as well. They'll still make money. And then you have this beautiful countryside and they're stuck in sheds and they're not allowed to see it ever. It's terrible,
Yeah, so you're starting to give us a glimpse of the inside of these places, and I imagine they're all a little bit different, but overall, though, paint even more of a picture for us of what's typical, what you saw in each and every place. Like, what are the cages like? What are the conditions of the dogs and the cages and the environment that stands out?
Well, I can tell you that, but I don't want to paint a picture of the film being horrific to watch, because actually we didn't put a lot of that in the film. In fact, we very carefully just only put real minimal amounts of it in the film, because this has to be something you watch, and we want it to be watched by the general public, not just people who know about it. We wanted people who don't know anything about it. They're our key audience, the ones who know nothing about this world, and that's the mainstream general public, because they're the ones who just go online and think, I'll just buy a puppy, and I want to design a dog, So it's about making sure that this film is tolerable to watch. Yeah. And largely it's about people. It's about people like Mark, about people like Grace, and it's about the politicians. So it's a film about people, even though it's a film about dogs, But inside the puppy mills, there were various different types, they're not all the same. But it would be very small places, very small cubicles with dogs and their litter or not, all side by side in little sheds, some in big sheds. And yeah, there was a stench. It's not that clean. It's not healthy, and we had to be very careful because we were filming without letting them know, and we did that because that's the only way to do it. But we did tell the last puppy farm we were coming with cameras because this particular guy was really proud of his conditions for his puppy mill, and he had heated flooring, he had this air filtration system, he had beautifully decorated walls, but it's still a puppy mill. It's still, mother dogs who will never see the light of day, and never be allowed to leave unless Grace manages to rescue one of them. And it was fascinating seeing someone really proud of his puppy mill. It was eye-opening. But I remember someone at the Humane Society saying that they also consider what you call backyard breeders as puppy mills too. There's like, it's a broader term than you think it is, because they are still doing it on a mass scale for profit in poor conditions. So it's not cages, but it's still a puppy mill of sorts.
And so you sort of said that you believe, and I agree, that the average person doesn't really have a sense of the scope of what's going on, and that's part of the purpose of this film, to put it out there. And yet I'm glad you gave that sort of caveat so that people aren't hesitant to go and see the film, that it won't be too graphic, certainly, and that you left some out, and how much you sort of did show and the decisions you made around that. But what are some of the biggest, like, what were you shocked about, or what misconceptions did you go in with, or do you think others have about puppies? Puppies are born, puppy mills, breeders.
Yeah. I think what shocked me is that once Grace has this car that's got adapted cages in it so she can collect as many dogs as possible, then take them to the vets to get them all checked up. And what you have these dogs that look like, in their eyes, they look shell-shocked. And some of them would not move. It was like they did not know what was happening to them. All their lives have been in this cage or in this little box room. And all of a sudden we're coming out and picking them up and it's like, whoa, they were going, what is going on? And even when we got to the vets, some of them were just still in this sort of state of shock. And they're not used to being around humans. They're always around other dogs. So all of a sudden there's lots of humans around them and no other dogs, and you just wonder what was going on. And that really shocked me because I didn't think about that bit of it. They were in shutdown. That's the phrase that was used. They went into shutdown mode. And it takes a while for some dogs to come out of that. But they do come out of it mostly, and it's a combination of all sorts of treatments, whether it's medical or whether it's, socializing work. Yeah, but that really shocked me. I didn't think about that bit. But on a positive note, there's just all these brilliant people there who knew exactly what to do. Because they see it every week when Grace brings these dogs to them, and it was like they went into rescue mode themselves, and getting everything checked out, getting the matted hair shaved, cut off, checking out their health, and they have these. A lot of them have genetic conditions which have probably been bred from being stuck in puppy mills, and then they pass it on to their puppies. And it's sort of, you see them with slightly weird jaw lines and things. And, and also the other thing as well that I learned is that they don't get the best food. So on top of all that, they're not getting the best food as well. So it's like, it's a recipe for disaster. It is really cruel.
Oh my God, those poor dogs. We really do get a sense of what they're going through. And as you said, when we focus on the good news, somebody's there then with physical and emotional healing. I want to read a couple of the comments that just came through for us, and we'll continue. Fleur Dawes says, such an amazing film. It is an eye-opener. I learned a lot, not just about puppy mills, but how to be a more effective voice for animals. Thank you, Paul. Very nice. Thank you. And the other one says, one viewer says, Grace Kelly Herbert from Finding Shelter Animal Rescues is featured in Dogspiracy. She is a lifesaver. So shout out to her as well. So, in your opinion or from your observation, is there any such thing as ethical breeders? Breeders who actually put animal welfare first, or are they like a unicorn?
No, there are, and we feature one in the film as well. When Mark's in his veterinary surgery in Brighton, where he works, he knows this person who's an ethical breeder, and her mother dog has, I think she had a litter of about 8 or 9 pups, and they're all very healthy. And that's like once a year she comes in and gets them all checked up. It's it's not going to make tens of thousands of dollars like the puppy mills are, but she loves what she does, and that's an ethical breeder. She's not in it for the business; she's in it for the love of it. And so it was nice to see her, and nice to meet her. And the other thing I was just going back on what I did learn doing this is that when the dogs have been bought from the pet store or bought online, if they've got these various behavioral problems or genetic issues, or they picked up a disease because they're so much more susceptible to disease, the new owners, the new family, they're having to spend a lot of money on the vet bills, and they've got this dog that we didn't think it was the dream dog when they first saw it online or in the pet store. And then what's been happening, as you well know, is dogs are being abandoned. So the next stage is rescue shelters are having to sort of pick up the pieces. And since the pandemic and all that craze about pandemic puppies, since then, dogs are being abandoned all over the place. And I know it's the same here as it is in the UK. Rescue centres are actually at crisis point. They're all full. And it's voluntary work, There's not tens of billions of dollars in those businesses. It's completely the opposite.
Yeah, and so that's why, certainly I know part of your message, and certainly our message here at AAC is we'd rather, of course, folks adopt from a shelter or a rescue and never buy. We always say adopt, don't shop, because as you said, shelters are overflowing. A stat I saw was approximately 2.9 million dogs enter U.S. animal shelters each year, according to a 2024 report from Shelter Animals Count. So how do you check out a breeder if that, we're not going to be able to stop everybody from going to a breeder, but how do you check out a breeder and even a rescue? Because you don't necessarily want to just take on face value, because you see lots of things in the news where people calling themselves a rescue or a shelter are hoarding or or breeding. So what are the red flags?
Well, that's one of the things that came out towards the end of filming. This was happening, that sort of people were having sort of bogus operations where they were in the guise of a rescue center. And that's just kind of like, if you think you know what you're doing, you get caught with that. That's that. So it's dreadful, isn't it, that people would do that? But we're very clear in the film, and we've done this because the film is aimed at a mainstream audience. We've done a very clear step by step of how you should buy a dog. And if you want a puppy, that's, and we do push that message out there that it's, having a dog that's a mature dog from rescue center is a great thing to do. But if you want a puppy, then make sure you visit it with its mother and you take photos, maybe do a bit of video. Don't buy it straight away. Come away, have a think about it. Go and do a second visit. You've got to be really, really smart about how you do that. But you always have to see it with its mother, interacting with its mother. And unscrupulous breeders will very, very rarely do that. They'll meet you in a car park somewhere, or they'll get it delivered, because you've seen pictures of it, a cute puppy, and that's how most people get their dogs. It's crazy, but it's like anything else. They wouldn't know any different. If you want something now, you type it into the internet and you go and it gets delivered. And that's the kind of mentality we're trying to break in the film.
Shopping for a dog.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, and you're right, because we love dogs as a society, as a in the world, we love dogs. And so it's easy to just make an impulsive emotional decision, or right, to see a picture. You don't even know if those are real pictures. You're right. That's why only if you're going to buy, which I'm against, but go to someone local so you can see, making sure that it's not just an AI photo or a stock photo, or something like that. So, what do you say to people, or what would you say to people when they are determined to buy because they want a specific breed? And I'll say, here in this country, it's like an obsession. It's so normalized, like designer dogs made to order. Like, what would you, knowing everything what would you say to that person?
Oh God, I hate going into people's lives and coming across like a know-all.
Go on, though.
No, I tell them what I've learned doing this film, but I think most of my friends already have dogs and they're all old, and I think if someone wants to buy a dog, I tell them what I'm saying now. I says, do it the right way, but I can't make people do it the right way. There has to be a big surge of information. There has to be a big sort of tsunami of everyone knowing that what they're doing is wrong when it comes to buying dogs.
Well, you could say, hey, watch my documentary first.
That's, that would be nice.
That's the idea. I think that's the idea of it. Yeah. So let's talk more about the puppy mill and pet store pipeline, that back and forth relationship. What is the status, from what you know, of the legalities of selling, you started to say, dogs, cats, and small animals in pet stores? In the UK, I know you passed Lucy's Law, which we can talk more about that. A stat I saw here in the US is 80 to 90%. Folks out there, 80 to 90% of US pet stores source them from puppy mills. So if you're thinking your pet store on the corner is different, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So we filmed in 2 pet stores, and they both said the same thing, that the puppies all around the room had come from 3 or 4 different states, and they'd come in the back of a van. And that's where, they've probably been removed from their mother too young. They've probably got already weak systems because they've been born in a puppy mill, and everything about it is just unhealthy. And then they're all being put together from different puppy mills. Now, can you imagine how quickly that disease will spread if one of them's got an illness or one of them's got something? They're in the back of a van for half a day, maybe a day, and then they get delivered to a pet store, and some of them might be a little bit sniffly and say, "Oh, it's just a cold," or whatever, and there's probably something more wrong with them. And a lot of what you said, you mentioned design dogs, a lot of them have other problems as well. They have heart defects, they have breathing defects. They can't, when they're mature dogs, they can't get pregnant naturally. There's so many problems that come with those designer dogs. And I think that was one of the other laws that Marc was looking at whilst he was in Pennsylvania for the UK, was a collective law called the Kept Animals Bill. And there was all sorts of things in that which it fell apart. It was looking like it was all going to get passed, and then it all completely fell apart. And that was to do with fertility clinics, where members of the public are doing the work of vets, because vets aren't cheap, so they can do it cheaper. Making them illegal. There was the puppy smuggling bill that he was looking on, and there was all sorts of things about cropped ears, that kind of thing, all bundled up in this brilliant bill, and that got kicked out while he was in America filming the stuff we were doing with Grace. So there's Marc was brilliant at getting the Lucy's Law bill passed, but that took him 10 years. 10 years of you just submit it and it popped out 10 years later. 10 years of wrangling people and harassing people to do the right thing. It's tough changing the law. That's one of the things that really surprised me. Well, changing a law is not easy, and it's not quick.
No, it is not. That is definitely one big, huge takeaway. I think we already knew that. But, we welcome folks in the comment because I imagine we have some folks following this now who have experience with initiatives and legislation and different things. And so we're welcoming, your contributions, and I can read those as well. And I do want to dive a bit into Lucy's Law because that's a hopeful thing. It is a hopeful thing, even though it took 10 years. But before that, because we're talking about the puppies, what does happen? I know you're not a vet, but what does happen emotionally when puppies are taken from their mothers? What are the
Well, there's a
psychological
period of time that a puppy should spend with its mother, and I can't remember what Mark keeps telling me this. I keep forgetting it. It's 6 to 8 weeks or something, and the mother in that period, it's all about socialization and behavior. It's like where a puppy learns to become a dog. It's a very natural thing, and cute puppies are taken away before that is complete.
And is there a law capping that might not be enforced?
Yes,
or
in the
followed?
UK, Lucy's Law has that.
Has that?
Yeah,
What is the earliest you can take a puppy from their mother?
I think it's 8 weeks. I'm not sure. I really should know this. I've forgotten. It's something like 8 weeks. So that's enshrined in law, and that's in England, Wales, and soon to be Northern Ireland. And even now, even though it was put in law in I think it was 2021, it still didn't go across the whole of the UK. But I think it's going to be happening in Northern Ireland very soon. And that is similar to Victoria's law, which is also similar to the laws that have been passed and enacted in the other states in America, New York, Maryland, quite a few others on the East Coast and a couple on the West Coast. I think California is one as well. Yeah, but it would be good to get it completely, across the nation.
Of course, ideally for their sake. And sort of on that same topic, something people don't usually think about is the insemination piece of it. And I never heard it. You said like, what was it? Clinics where they actually
fertility clinics.
I never heard that. Is that a UK thing, or do we have?
I think that's the UK term for it. They're bound to have them here, so it's not like I remember the public puts the surgeon's gown on and starts doing operations. What they're doing is they're taking bloods, they're doing artificial sperm injections and that kind of thing. They're doing the work of vets, and it's not. It's sort of it's something that's occurred in the last few years, and because it's something that's new, there's no law against it until you flag it up and say, actually, this is unethical.
Somebody gets
dangerous.
Hurt. Yeah. So that is the way that the puppy mills are breeding the dogs through. How do they get the semen from the male dogs and then they impregnate the female dogs?
It's either done artificially or it's done naturally, because they have, the male dogs there are as brutalized as the female dogs. There's no escape for them. The one dog that we picked up, it lived in a horse's stable. It was just surrounded by horses, and that was its home. That was a strange one, that was. And that was another one that was completely shell-shocked. But they get to a point where that's, they can't function anymore, and then become, they get abandoned.
Yeah. And on average, the females are probably impregnated how many?
8 years worth, maybe. So what's that? Probably, I think a heat cycle is something like 9 to 10 months, sort of. So you're talking. We picked up a puppy before Mark left to go to America in Wales, and we worked out in the film that it had something like, I can't remember, something like 72 puppies, and if you times that by £3,500, that's the profit it made. £140,000, I think that puppy was worth, and it got not a penny of that, treatment going towards its life or care. Just stuck in this cage.
Oh, awful, sad. Adopt, don't shop, folks. Again, but Okay, so I want to talk about Lucy's Law, and and then we'll go back to talking about the greed and corruption that you discovered and sort of exposed. But for folks that know a little bit about Lucy's Law, and you can explain a little bit more and share a little bit more. It's about transparency and accountability, basically, is a regulation which limits the sale of puppies and kittens as pets in England. The Lucy's Law campaign was launched by Lisa Cameron, who is the chairperson of the All-Party Parliamentary Dog Advisory Welfare Group. Yeah, it is named after a spaniel called Lucy. And the law came into effect in April 2020, which licensed commercial traders no longer allowed to sell kittens or puppies as pets if they were less than 6 months old and they had not been bred by the seller. So is that what you're understanding? And it's still that?
Yes, that's my understanding of the law, and you know, I think I trust that the people behind the law have done exactly the right things, and that's the right things to do. I'm not a vet, and I'm not a medical person at all. Sure. What is fascinating about Lucy's Law is how Marc got the law passed in the first place.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So he went to see his local politician in Brighton, and she told him about the petitions you can put together, online petitions, and and as he got to do, the more people he met, the more people he brought along with him, and he realized that there's power in numbers. And the politician mentioned it to another politician, so that it's growing slightly amongst the political members that care about dogs, and then he realized the power of celebrity. And there's some real, there's some real influence that you can have with celebrities. You know, if Ricky Gervais gets involved, you've got an audience of millions, whereas before you had an audience of like 10,000 or something. So, but it still took 10 years to get across the line, you know. But
the power
it was a real rich bag of ingredients that Marc put together, and he says that's what it takes. And it's weird because it's a law that isn't political, is it? Because
you think
there's people on both sides of the divide love dogs. The general public are not going to not vote for you because you put a law in place that protects dogs. In fact, if anything,
except for a psychopath or a sociopath, they would be the only ones against it. You would think it'd be it's a no-brainer. But anyway, kudos to Marc for being I like him so much. You know, being persevering and not giving up, and knowing what to leverage and leveraging his personality and leveraging his relationships and his networking. I think that's absolutely awesome. So I don't know go ahead.
No, I was going to say he'll be on a plane tomorrow from London to Philadelphia. Yeah, so he'll be here tomorrow for a few days.
Meet him.
Yeah,
he's in the house almost.
Yeah,
he's coming in.
He's got a busy time. We've got the international premiere on Saturday at 5:00 at Oaks Centre Cinema, and we've got the New York screening I told you about on Tuesday. But in between, we're going to a political rally / press conference at the Harrisburg Capitol building. And there's going to be hopefully some TV news crews and press and a lot of politicians who are hopefully going to get some momentum for Victoria's Law.
Nice.
Yeah. So he's got a busy time.
Since you mentioned that the premiere and that you're attending, it's not too late for folks to get tickets. And we're going to put into the chat maybe a couple of times the link where people can go now and buy. It's not sold out. Oh, well, I'm thinking about the Pennsylvania one. There's New York and Pennsylvania, but you said lots of tickets have been sold. Yes?
Yes. It's the Oaks Cinema people have been brilliant. They've said basically if you sell to capacity, which we're close to doing, they'll move it to the cinema next door, which has got another like 50 space. So we'll move to a bigger room. So yeah, we want to sell as many tickets as possible, and some of the money will go towards the charity Finding Shelter that Grace runs.
Nice. Okay, a couple of questions that have come in, and then we'll talk about Victoria's Law. What would you say the general level of awareness is of the public about puppy mills? Do people know about the cruelty and shop anyway, or are they largely ignorant?
I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the public, but I'll stick my neck out and say they know nothing about it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to people when you're having social. I've been working for 5 years, so you go to social events and say what you're working on, and they go, "Oh wow, didn't know that happened." You know, they don't know about it.
So they're not willfully ignorant in this particular case. It's mostly that it's been
not
hidden.
on anyone's radar.
It's not on their radar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're going to change.
That's what we're going to change now. It's about time, right? We're showing it. You're showing it. Thank you for that. And people are asking if they will be able to watch the film online or on streaming platforms. I guess eventually, right?
Eventually, yes. So we're doing these 2 screenings too soon. It should all be happening in January and all be managed and choreographed beautifully. But we're doing 2 screenings that we just jumped at because of the Victoria's Law press rally campaign thing. So once we have a list of places, we're going to be showing it in special events around America next year, lots of different locations. Then towards the summer, we then should be looking at selling it to a TV networks and streamers, if whoever's going to be around. And I know in the UK you can pay Apple TV on Apple, but you have to pay to watch it.
Mm.
But that's only happened in the last few weeks, though.
In the US and in the UK.
I think it's ring fenced to the UK, even though it's Apple TV. I think it's a territorial thing. I don't think you can. I don't think the link works outside of the UK. But that something like that should happen in the US, but not for ages. And once we've done these 2 screenings this weekend and Tuesday, we won't be showing it here until early next year. So there's going to be a bit of a gap.
Well, hurry up, folks. Get your tickets. Calm down. Well, let's talk about Victoria's Law, which, so correct me if I'm wrong, it's a proposed law in Pennsylvania that would ban pet stores from selling commercially bred dogs, cats, and rabbits unless the animals are from shelters or rescues. The law is named after Victoria, a German shepherd, who suffered from a genetic disease passed down from her puppy mill background. It aims to protect consumers and promote more humane animal sources. And I know personally activists who are directly involved and actively working on getting laws passed. And I've been to the protests. Many of the activists that we know certainly have been protesting and taking actions around this. I'll shout out Rev Philly and Pennsylvania Voters for Animals, which Cheryl is featured in Dogspiracy, who I know well, and Animal Rights Initiative. And I apologize, I'm probably forgetting other groups, so folks can put that in the chat. Other groups that I'm missing, please comment and I can read those out loud. But what would you like to say about Victoria's law?
Well, it's in that similar zone of the other laws being passed in the US and to Lucy's law that's been passed in the UK. It's primarily to make sure that pet stores can't be this end of the pipeline for puppy mills. And pet stores themselves don't have great conditions. You know, on a Friday night when they lock at the shop up, you know, those puppies are just on their own for like 12, 14 hours, maybe longer, some of them. You know, it's the whole thing is wrong. But having said that about Victoria's law, that they want the state of Pennsylvania to adopt it and put it in as a bill, Cheryl, who you mentioned, did this thing we also feature in the film where she, in Pennsylvania, in Allentown, petitioned her local Allentown councillors and successfully shut down a pet store. You know this, Michelle. She successfully shut down a pet store in Allentown, and that was something that I thought, wow, that's amazing. So the state of Pennsylvania doesn't have the law, but individual towns can be, if you get the right, if you do it the right way, it can work. And I think recently that's happened a couple of times since then in other towns in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So, and it's people action, it's people doing things, and it's really empowering.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. And so, I mean, that's I think that's as much as I can tell you about Victoria's law and Lucy's law. When it comes to the intricacies of the law, I really don't know those
Right.
details.
No, but that was plenty, and I'm glad you let us know about that. One comment is, I sent my town councilman an email today asking to introduce an ordinance that would ban the sale of cats and dogs in our town. So people, you can do it in your own town as a constituent or as a layperson. So do that. And then another question is, how can people join the action in Harrisburg to support this law? I don't know if you have an answer for that, though.
Yeah. So I think it's an open invite to the general public. If you want to come along and show your support, it's 2:00 on Monday, the 27th. That's next Monday. Yes, 2:00 next Monday. In the Harrisburg Capitol building, in the Rotunda, that beautiful building inside.
Okay. So people can just search for that, right? Search for that event, and they can. The public is welcome to go and join in Harrisburg for that. Okay, that's a good call to action.
I mean, that's the other funny thing, that's the government building, and it's open to the public, and public have the right to be in there. And that's what I learned from Mark about Parliament in Westminster. If you want, you can just go into Parliament and walk in, not the voting not the debating chamber,
right?
And there's just little things like you learn these things just sort of being with Mark, and he's like the master of just sort of showing up these beautiful little treasured hidden corners of the Parliament. It's fascinating. But this is the thing: the general public has to be allowed into access to power and be able to see it. And that's all part of it. So this thing that Cheryl's done and this thing that Mark's doing, it's all about the general public feeling like they have a say and feeling like they can do something, no matter how difficult or how sort of daunting it might look.
People are intimidated.
Yeah.
They're intimidated by what they don't know. They're intimidated by government, and everybody maybe feels so small right now. Everybody feels like so helpless, and it's sort of pervasive mindset. We got to get rid of that. We have to cancel that and know that we have power. We have some power, and we just have to educate ourselves. So, All right. So how about in the documentary, I know that there's parts about the politicians that Mark encountered and sort of came away with it, that the politicians are complicit, and as well as the breeders are complicit. And what's your, reflection on that they're complicit in this cruelty, and at the bottom of it is greed and corruption? That's the conspiracy part of Dogspiracy that you discovered and exposed.
Well, one of the things that shocked me was that when we had COVID and all of a sudden everyone got into Zooms and the political people were doing their debating with Zooms, there's multiple layers of heads. The Pennsylvania Parliament recorded them and put them on the website. You can't get them anymore. And so I watched a couple of those, and there were spokespeople representing veterinary surgeons who are actively lobbying not to vote in favor of dog welfare bills.
Oh, good gracious. Because they'll lose money.
Because they'll lose money.
Yeah, right? That's unethical.
I mean, I'm not saying all vets,
right.
But basically this particular group were lobbying for representing vets who didn't want to lose money. God, so you're dealing with that as well. So it isn't politicians, it's lobbyists, and it's groups of vets. And there was other, there's a, they all have lobbyists. Pet stores have a group called PJAC, I think, and they go lobbying their local politicians to say, don't vote for this bill. So you've got all that going on. And then, as we found out from John at the Humane World for Animals, that the AKC, is making so much money from puppy mills that it would probably go bust if it didn't didn't want them to continue. And then you've got the USDA, who states various rules and regulations that puppy farms have to work within. That's if they ever get properly analysed. But let's just say they obey the law, and the law is, American law is, that a cage doesn't have to be any bigger than 6 inches longer than the dog.
Yeah.
You know, and that, who passed that law? Who decided that was right?
Right.
You know, so there's a lot going on against dogs and dog welfare, and it should be really easy to fix. He says optimistically.
Yeah. Of course, it's reminding me of all the chickens, inside their warehouses, and the pigs inside the gestation crates, and the farrowing crates, that cannot move. They're given just enough room to just be there and cannot move around. But anyway, that's, all right. So we have a comment here from the Lutka. Additionally, she knows some things here. Easton, PA, which is near Allentown, recently passed a resolution to ban the sale of not only cats, dogs, and rabbits, but also rodents, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. Yay. The Lutka also says there will be, at the demonstration in Harrisburg, they will be there. And hopes to see others there as well. So that's an open call for people to come to Harrisburg and join in.
Brilliant. No, absolutely. It's effective when people power is that visible. It's effective. Let's come and say hello.
Introduce yourself. Say I was on the live stream. Yeah. So we're welcoming more questions, but also we mentioned puppy smuggling, and that's, again, I can get what that is by the name of that, but I hadn't really thought about or heard about that. So how much in the documentary, certainly without any spoiler alerts, what is puppy smuggling? Is that when
it's bringing puppies across the border into the UK, mostly either from Ireland or Eastern Europe, where it's clear that they are too young to be taken from the mother, and it's giving a minimum age on the puppy to be brought across the border. So it's putting that, and again, these things sound like they should be in law, but they're not enshrined in law. So it's just getting the basics done.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can put as many laws out as you like. People will still try and break them, but at least there are laws in place to say these are the standards we have, and these, if you get caught, you will be punished.
Yes. You need to make an example of people. But it's making me think it's just so awful, because dog smuggling, and we're thinking like drug smuggling. Like the same thing. They're these commodities.
Exactly.
Steal them and get them over the border, where someone's going to pay a good price, for them, and somebody's going to make money from this unethical criminal activity.
Yeah, and one of Marc's other laws was pet theft reform, whereas in the UK, if you steal someone's pet, it's treated as an object. It's not treated as a member of the family. So it's just there's laws like that Mark's working on, just to get them onto the statute book, to make them actually properly recognised. It's largely it's common sense, but they just don't exist.
Yeah, they don't exist. That would be the first step to get. I know there's a push for that we've tried to get animals to be on the books as people, as their own independent individual, versus we're only owned, or we're only who we are in relationship to the people who own us, and we're just objects. And so that would be a first big step, and other things would not be allowed to happen if that ever came to be. Yeah. So Paul, any tips for activists or filmmakers, who are filmmakers, or filmmakers who want to be activists, who want to expose puppy mills or other forms of cruelty? I don't know. Where can they start? What should they do first? What should they think about the target? What do you think?
Well, there's different levels of filmmaking going on. What the Humane World for Animals do is they go on raids, and they have like body cameras, and they film all their raids like that, and that's really exposing the world, the cruel world, and what it looks like. And we did use some of their footage, because they very kindly let us use it. But that's not what our film's about. Our film's about the sort of the politics and the personalities and the relationships. And just going back to the trailer, when you showed the trailer, by the way, Michelle, it just reminded you, I've not seen it for a little while, but what I think they've done in the trailer, because when you finish a film, you give it to the distributor and they make a trailer. And what they've done, they've probably taken all the worst bits of the dog scenes and put them together in like 2 minutes. I think they've done it for a reason, because they want to. But I just think that's not reflective of the film. The film is mostly about people. But you're saying what can people do as well? I think, and this is what we say in the film, and this is what we also say when we've done Q&As after the film, is every single person just tweet or do an Insta post or do a Facebook post or like it or repost it. Doing things like that. If we can build up a volume of social media, then people do take notice. It just takes a long time, but everyone's effort counts.
Yeah. Yes. So that's another call to action. Watch the movie, share the movie, put it on social media. That's really the hope of this. And so, is there any other, behind the scenes sort of memorable moments, or were there any times making the film that you felt nervous or scared about what you were doing, or not so much?
No, not really. Nervous and scared that I didn't think the film would ever end because we didn't have an ending. Because the ending was supposed to be Mark going to Pennsylvania celebrating Victoria's law being voted in, and that
would have been a happy ending.
Yeah, it would have been. So what we did, I went to Erie in the northern coast of Pennsylvania on Lake Erie, and that's where all the dogs that we'd filmed being picked up from Lancaster County, they went through this sort of rehabilitation process. They went through health checks, and then they came out of it the other end, and then they all got different homes to live in. So I went to film those dogs in their new homes, and you could see that transformation from these rigid, shell-shocked beings into these just people running around the garden, jumping on sofas, just having a really lovely time. So that became the ending, and I think there's a message in that there is hope, and there's messages, there's positivity.
Yeah, and
it's just trying to inspire, more people to do the right thing.
Yeah,
not people, but also people, but people buying puppies, but also politicians who have the opportunity to vote the right way.
How can we get it to the politicians? I mean, they're average consumers as well, not just politicians. So we hope it'll reach them the same way it reaches everybody if it goes viral and that kind of thing.
But they are based on popularity. Them going to the polls is a popular vote. And if they see that something's popular, they'll go with it. They just have to see it or hear it.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. So we have a question. Would you do a parrot-spiracy or a bird-spiracy next? Somebody would need to be a bird.
I'm laughing because it's probably serious subject, sir. I don't know enough about it, but I don't know. I don't know. I think for me, it's the subject matter was compelling. The subject matter felt like it had been tucked away and hidden from the public. And we had this great central character who's on a mission, and the scale of the mission is really high. So all those ingredients come together to say that for me is a film there now. And if there are issues with parrots and birds that I don't know about, I'm sure there are, then it doesn't mean it's a film. Do you know what I mean? There's certain ways of doing it. It could be a newspaper article, it could be a podcast, it could be something else. But films need these real core blocks in place for them to sort of, to get the money, because you have to sort of sell it as an idea on paper and then you go and make it. There's a long way to go. It's like passing a law, getting a film commissioned.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get all the money together and all the people saying, yes, we'll support this.
it's no good if nobody goes to see it. And you're right, as you give us a glimpse into the mind of a filmmaker, even with a serious subject like this, it is a serious subject. You still have to envision it being compelling and exciting and a logical beginning, middle, and end. Where and then you have to prepare for spontaneous things that happen and change and adapt. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. What'd you say?
Oh yeah, it is, and it was 5 years of doing blocks of filming here and there, lots of editing while we were still filming, just to try and figure out what the story is and where it's going to go. And of course, it's the real world, and it involves politics. None of us know which way it's going to go, So, but that's normal for this type of verite style of filmmaking. You're in the real world, and you've got to make some sense out of it when everything seems slightly chaotic and slightly sort of lots of loose ends everywhere. But it's fun. It's fun. I mean, I'm very lucky to do this job. Just removing myself from the subject matter. It's a real eye-opening experience, and it makes you see the world in a different way. And you meet all these amazing characters. Grace, Mark, Cheryl.
Yeah.
And the politicians we met. I know we've been sort of doing politicians down, but we met some amazing politicians too. Yeah, who were on the right side.
Excellent. That's really good to know. Yeah, it definitely takes skill and creativity. But if you're doing a film that is for such a good reason, such a good why, that really shows in the film. And I think I even saw somebody who was reviewing the documentary that said that the passion, the dedication of the filmmakers and Marc shone through in the documentary. And so that's really
nice. That's a nice comment.
That's nice. That's a nice review. I just read that today. So we'll leave it open for see if there's any more questions. If not, we'll wrap up. Or I want to see if you have anything else you'd like to share. And the only thing I was thinking about, because I just interviewed this week as well someone who was an undercover investigator in slaughterhouses, and did a lot of exposing and filming and photographs. And she was talking about what got her into that was an initial whistleblower. So I know that that's not what Dogspiracy was about. Like you said, it's people and the behind, the politics and the dynamics and all of that. But did it ever occur to you while you were filming the insides of these puppy mills that why? And I guess they don't have like a lot of employees, I wouldn't say. I don't know, but how is it? Is it laid out in such a way where even the employees are exploited, or that there might be a chance for a whistleblower?
Not puppy mills, because puppy mills that we went to, and I think puppy mills that I've read about, they largely are family-owned farm agricultural businesses. But I do know that Humane World for Animals did put undercover people inside pet stores, and you can do that. That's a good place to do that, and they expose a lot of horrific stuff there. I mean, whistleblowers are good, but they'd have to be working on a much bigger level than the farms are. Even though the farms are vast in scale, it's only a handful of people,
right?
And largely they're all related. It's very hard to sort of either get someone to go covert in
all in the family.
Yeah, and you're not going to get the family being a whistleblower.
I'm going to blow my whistle on my mother or my grandmother. That's just not going to happen. And is it true that there are many puppy mills congregated in the Amish community in Pennsylvania?
Yes, we primarily went in Amish puppy mills. Yeah, and we went part of Lancaster County where the 5,000 farms owned by the Amish. We have no idea of knowing how many of them have puppies in them, but it was a lot.
Do you have a theory as to why there's the Amish as a community are?
Yeah, we talked about this a lot. I think the view of dogs is like similar to the view of cattle and livestock. That it's a way to make money. In these vast warehouses, they've got the space to do it. I mean, I'm just giving it the clinical answer here.
No, that's my guess.
I think that's what it is. But Mark and I have talked about this a lot. They're actually probably comfortably off without that income coming in. I don't think they don't need it. They run vast farms with huge amounts of wheat and other stuff that they sell for a profit. They don't need to do dogs as well.
Yeah, go figure. Go figure. Yeah. So if any folks have thoughts about that, feel free to share, or any takeaways so far, or any calls to action for each other in the chat there as activists. So Paul, is there anything we missed? Is there anything glaring that you think is important message from your experience and from, the making of this documentary that you'd like to share?
Well, only that, most of the stuff I do in my life is commissioned by a television network. So you finish the film, and you deliver it, and they'll figure out when it goes out and figure out how much press they're going to get, and you help them as much as they can. But that's my job done then. When you do an independent film, I've done quite a few small ones. This is a big budget independent film. My job's technically done, or so I thought once I'd finished the film. And what it's, I think Mark's corralled me into his campaign mentality. I'm now doing all this stuff, and it's just like, oh dear, I should be working over there, but no, I'm going to go to Pennsylvania and promote this film. I'm not on the payroll anymore. I'm doing this because it's kind of like I'm in too deep, Michelle.
There's no turning back now. No. You're in the best cult ever, the cult of helping. Damn it. And speaking of Mark, he's in the chat. He's in rather the
Oh, is that Mark? Can I see his comment now?
No, I think, yeah, you might be able to see. Thanks for a great interview, Michelle. You're welcome. Looking forward to being back campaigning in the States for Victoria's Law and screening Dogspiracy this weekend in Philly. Go Philly. And next week in New York City. Go New York City. See you tomorrow, Paul. Nice. Well, that's going to just really get a lot of, he's doing his thing right now. He's getting
10 past midnight in the UK. It's very late in the UK. He's got a flight tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. You're like, it's bad enough I'm up. I mean, no, you're not. You're fine. You're good. You're happy to be in the States. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
But okay, so one more time, anything you want to say about the premiere? I know maybe we'll put the links to buy tickets again in the
yeah, I think we all know about the film. I think we all know about how wrong the situation is.
Yeah. I
just think we just need to get eyeballs on this film, and the more people to watch it and talk about it, the better.
Yes, sir. Okay, so it's in your hands, everybody. Now, Paul did his bit, Mark did his bit. We're not done either, but they're serving us with this invitation to get it out there. Jake says this film will wake people up. Great job. Thank you, Jake. We appreciate that. All right, well, stay with us, Mark. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm already thinking about Mark. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, for taking the time during your travels to talk with us, to be with us on this live stream.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if I can bring my dog in now. I don't know if she's.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, hello.
Okay, so as we wrap up, please register for our New York Fur-Free Weekend, November 27th through 30th. 4 days of action targeting the fur industry. Also, please donate to the Convergence if you can, and perhaps we'll drop a link for that as well. Also, for as little as $2 a month, please consider becoming a patron by finding AAC on Patreon. Your donations allow AAC to continue to provide free educational resources for activists, which ultimately saves more animals. If you're interested in becoming a mentor or a mentee or want to get involved, please visit our website. Please hit subscribe here on our channel, smash that bell, and give us a like. And my final message is about speciesism. Speciesism is the bias or prejudice against another being because of their species. It is the root cause of animal exploitation, use, and abuse. Whether a dog, a cat, a cow, or a pig, all someones are entitled to compassion and moral consideration. Join AAC in challenging speciesism in all its forms. Please join and support animal rights organizations so we unify this movement and work together. All right. So until next time, thanks everyone. AAC signing off.